Okay, in today's video I'll be talking about the Sidewinder Gamepad 1.0. This was the first Sidewinder Gamepad released by Microsoft back in, I think, September of 1996. I think I bought this in 1997 at, I think I bought it at, not sure, Electronics Boutique or something. And this controller looks very much like a PlayStation 1 controller or a Sega Saturn controller. They're trying to like emulate that on a Windows platform. And this thing uses something called a, let's see how many ports. This is 15 ports. 1, 2, 3, 4. 15 port game port. And sound cards usually had this type of port, like as you can see right here. This is an old Sound Blaster Live sound card, which I took out of my Dell Dimension 4600. So you would just, so the way you connected this was to a sound card. It didn't exist on a motherboard or anything. So you would just connect it here to your computer like that. And that's how you would use it. And you would have to get the drivers for it. So it came with the drivers right there. I think the manual is in the jewel case. Let me get it out. This is the manual for it. This is 1995 to 1997. I don't remember how much I paid for this, but I don't, maybe $50 or something back in 1997. So it has a D-pad, but there's no analog stick. I don't think the PlayStation 1 had an analog stick. Analog stick came later. I think that was a PlayStation 2 or something. It came with an analog stick, but this thing doesn't have it. Just got buttons, basically. There's 2 trigger buttons, kind of like a Sony PlayStation or a Sega Saturn controller. They also have trigger buttons. I did use this when I was playing emulators. I don't think I really used it for playing anything else. I might have used it for playing Crimson Skies. I think that's about the only PC game that I use the controller for. But mostly it was just used for emulators, basically. That's a manual. Shows that it was printed in 1997. So I bought it in 1997. Remember that for sure. And that's a CD for it. So basically, I think this has the drivers for it. But if you install this on a later operating system, like I guess something like Windows 98 or Windows XP, or maybe even Windows 7. I guess some people are still using sound cards like this in the Windows 7 age. I'm not really sure because most of the sound boards that we used around the 2000s was just onboard sound, or in other words, sound boards which was based on the motherboard. Basically, it was a Realtek soundboard. So we stopped using sound cards like this and just started using onboard sound, and it's been like that ever since I got my I think it was Athlon 64 3200 754 socket. which I got in 2004, and then I got a Pentium 4 3.0 with hyperthreading in 2005, around mid or late 2005, and I didn't use a dedicated soundboard. I just used the onboard sound, and the onboard sound was good enough. It was as good as a Sound Blaster 512 or a Sound Blaster 128. And sound cards were basically used, I guess, in the 1990s. Every computer I used in the 1990s had a sound card in it. Even my 386 had it. 386SX, early 1990s, had a sound card. It had an ad-lib. My Pentium 100 had a sound card. I think it had a Sound Blaster Pro or a Sound Blaster 16 sound card in it. And that would enable you to use this port. But today, you can get an adapter to connect this port to a USB. The reason why I stopped using this was because I didn't have a game port to plug it into. And in 2004, so it just sat in my drawer from 2004 to now, which is almost, see how many years? 19 years almost, just sitting in my drawer not doing anything. So I just bought a new, back in 2004, I bought a new controller. I think I bought a Logitech F310, and that replaced this. But when I was using it, this was a pretty good it was a pretty good gamepad for what I was using it for. It was good enough. There's 2 trigger buttons right here. But I never used this in any first-person shooter. I never used this in, well, I did use it in a flight simulator, I remember. Arcade flight simulator like Crimson Skies. I used it for a game called Luftwaffe Commander. And I used it for another game, Fighter Squadron or something, for Microprose. But for the most part, the gaming interface that I used for the PC was just a keyboard and a mouse for the most part. So yeah, it was a pretty good gamepad, I have to say. And it would be nice if I could still use it today. Maybe I could get an adapter and use it on a modern computer. And just put it to use instead of just storing it away and, well, it's not collecting dust because it's in a drawer, but just put it to use. It's pretty durable. It's not cheap or anything. Unlike some of these new controllers that you just buy from like without any kind of brand or anything. It's a heck of a lot better than those generic type of controllers. Controller like this, or a PlayStation 1 controller, a PlayStation 2 controller. They have some kind of adapter which would enable you to connect the PlayStation 1 controller to a USB adapter and then connect it to a modern computer. They have stuff like that. Or you could connect it to a single board computer with an operating system like RetroPie, and you could use it, or Retro Orange Pi, or Recall Box, or Batacera, or whatever, using a controller like this or something. Or you could use it on your computer to play retro games. There's definitely enough buttons for that. Okay, that's all I want to say today, and if you have any questions or thoughts, you could leave it in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.